turn in our text to the story of Little Miss Muffet. I'll begin reading. Little Miss Muffet sat on a tuffet, eating the curds and whey. Along came a spider and sat down beside her and scared Miss Muffet away. Now, when you read this story, you may notice that there are three distinct areas that we can observe about Miss Muffet.
That's right.
Number one is the person of Miss Muffet. Number two, the position of Miss Muffet.
Oh, yeah.
And number three, the perseverance of Miss Muffet.
Yeah.
So let's look at the person of Miss Muffet. Who is Little Miss Muffet? So based on the words little and miss, I believe there are three distinct possibilities about the type of person that Miss Muffet might be. Now, one possibility is that little could mean little girl.
Oh, yeah.
Another possibility is that little would mean like little old lady.
That's right.
Now, a third possibility lies somewhere between the first two mentioned ones. Someone who is older than a little girl, say starting with adolescent age, on up to someone who is not quite to the stage of being an old lady yet. We'll say somewhere around middle age as being the upper range. So, what would the word little have to do with this age range? Well, it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the age range, but it would apply to the general physical stature or size of this particular person. Little meaning either short or very thin and scrawny. Now, as we weave in and out of this passage, you'll see that my belief is that Little Miss Muffet is somewhere in this middle range, somewhere towards the lower end of the age, around adolescent or young adult, and is also of the thin, scrawny build type, much like the runway type models you might see.
Oh, yeah.
But first, let's go back and look at each possibility. Possibility one, little girl sitting down eating, gets scared away by a little spider. Now, to me, that's not much of a story. Who wouldn't expect that to happen? Now, let's go to the other end. Let's say it's a little old lady sitting down, eating. Again, scared away by a spider. Again, this does not seem like that much of a story to be concerned with. To me,
Got that right,
now I have to say, I have seen some pretty tough old ladies in my time that wouldn't be scared away by nothing. That's what I'm talking about. To have a little old lady scared away by a spider is nothing that's going to cause any great interest on our part, or any real story that we would expect to learn anything from. So that leaves situation number three. A young lady sitting down eating, scared away by a spider. Now, of the three, I believe this is the one that we would expect to at least stay and put up some sort of a fight. And let me say this, that in any story, there always has to be some sort of a conflict. And fear is always an element to be dealt with, to be learned from. Also, from having been an avid studier of the nursery rhymes, I've found that there's always some sort of lesson to be learned therein. And I see the only real lesson to be learned would have to apply to the situation of the young lady who is in the broadest range of life that would be most applicable to all of us, from which most of us would be able to learn, and the most of us would be able to identify with. Now, I know many of you can accuse me of reading into these stories and going too far and just making whatever I want to out of them.
Got that
And if you
right,
think
preacher.
that, that's fine. But let me just say this. I am a self-proclaimed, self-ordained minister of ancient literature.
Yeah.
And the best I know, there ain't nobody else doing this nowhere. And I ain't doing this for my own good. I'm doing it because I believe there's lessons to be learned and to be shared and to be benefited from. So if you think there's someone out there that knows this better than me and can interpret it better, go ahead. You go on down to their church, like at that church down at the end of what street is that? And what's the name of that church? Oh yeah, there ain't no other one because there ain't nobody else doing this.
That's what
So I'm afraid that you stuck with me for now.
That's
Now, I believe we can learn even more about little Miss Muffet if we look further ahead. So let's read the first half of this passage again. Little Miss Muffet sat on a tuffet, eating her curds and whey. Now, as I've said, I believe that this is a young woman of a scrawny, thin body type, as the word little applies here. Now we look at what she eating.
Oh, yeah.
Well, she eating curds and whey. Now, in our terminology today, we would call that cottage cheese. Now, that is basically the food of someone who is on a diet. Very high in protein, low in fat, low in carbs. So, we gotta ask the question, why is a little scrawny thing like Miss Muffet sitting there eating diet food? Well, I think that gives us a little bit more insight into the type of person that she is. Now, I believe that Miss Muffet is the type of person that's totally focused on her image. Now, it probably wouldn't hurt her at all to go down to Burger King and order up a double bacon Whopper.
Yeah,
And she's
that's what I'm
sitting
talking
down,
about.
munching on a little Dixie cup full, probably, of cottage cheese or something like that. So, I believe, symbolically, this shows that her focus is on herself. How's this make me look? What's this do for me? And so her focus is probably most likely not on those around her.
That's right.
So, we have looked at point one, the person of Miss Muffet. So, we have made a determination on the person of Miss Muffet by the word little. Now, let's look at the next word, Miss.